four-time Miss Olympia Jay Cutler. Welcome to my channel, Jay Cutler TV, and make sure to stay in tune with the newest and updated videos. Subscribe below, guys. Thank you so much for following along.
Alright guys, Dave Mad Max 6, and this is a very unusual yet very important BBL Bab Roser. We've been missing in action for a little bit, and we're here to explain to you why. So Biggie, I wanted to start by saying that I'm really glad we're still doing this. We're doing this today. So we haven't seen any BBL Bab Roser for a couple of weeks now. We haven't been to Golds for a couple of weeks now, so I wanted to take the time for you to actually talk on your own show to explain everyone where you've been and what's been happening over the past couple of weeks. So here we are.
Yeah, here we are for sure. So, I mean, the story goes back at this point about 2 weeks and 2 days now, when I was having a perfectly normal Tuesday. That was normally a training day, but I took that day off and just did some errands and was working and just having a normal day. And I decided at one point during the day, I think it was somewhere around 5 o'clock in the afternoon, to lay down, take a little bit of a nap before I went back to work and finished up my evening clients and articles and stuff. And woke up out of that nap with severe chest pains and pains in my throat, something that I had never felt before or experienced before, and it worsened really quickly over, I'd say, the course of 10 to 15 minutes. But you know, I didn't think that it was anything serious, to tell you the truth. Even though it felt serious, I thought maybe it was, the first thing that came to my mind was maybe some type of food allergy. Maybe I was having some type of anaphylactic shock where my bronchial tubes were closing. Then I was thinking, you know, maybe because I started to feel some nausea as well, maybe I had food poisoning, something very severe. Maybe I had like a trapped gas bubble in my chest, which is putting a lot of pressure on. So these are the things that went through my mind. And I really began a period of suffering, sort of like in waves, where the suffering would get to the point where it would just knock me on the ground, literally on my back, and just, you know, sort of, in a way, wondering what is going on with me, because it was just so severe. And it would wave out a little bit, and then I'd feel the need to get up and start walking around. So I'd start pacing around my apartment, and I would just keep telling myself, you know, oh man, I'm really sick. You know, I'm really, you know, got some some type of an acute poisoning or something is going on in my body. The thought of having perhaps a heart problem was not entering my mind, and
Why would it?
It wouldn't enter my mind because, you know, number one, as you know, we've been training for years together. I've never had an issue in the gym. I've pushed every rep to the last, and you know, been training in very severely hot weather in Gold's Gym. Yeah. It's been a very hot summer in the 90s, and with no air conditioning in Gold's Gym. You know, come out of the gym drenched, and you know, we train very intensely with very long, drawn out, painful sets. So certainly I wasn't backing off, and I wasn't feeling anything outside the gym either in terms of, you know, fatigue or
No symptoms.
No, nothing. No symptoms. Just, you know, living my normal life. So, you know, at one point, you know, it was pretty much time to go to sleep, but I wasn't able to sleep. I didn't sleep the entire night, and I was really trying to just downplay everything that was happening, and just say, you know, I'll get better. I'll get through this, whatever this is. And then in the middle of the night is when the nausea got really bad. And I started throwing up, and that was when I actually thought, okay, maybe this is food poisoning. Maybe I'm going to get it out, and everything maybe is just, you know, burning inside, and it's just, you know, my body's poisoned. And unfortunately, that wasn't helping at all. In fact, it was hurting my chest even more and more because I was already in so much pain. And the feeling that I had in my chest, if I can try to describe it, because what I've been told by doctors is that everybody who has a heart attack feels it a little bit differently. And you have to experience it to understand. And again, at the time, I didn't know I was having a heart attack, but what I was feeling was as if somebody was inside my body choking me from the inside. Like it felt like somebody had a hold in my lungs, a hold in my heart, a hold in my throat, and was squeezing. And it felt like I had like a giant like softball in my chest, like as if I swallowed it and it was just stuck there. That was the sensation. So one of the hardest things for me to talk about, I'll just talk about now, is that I didn't remember everything that happened during this event until after, because at some points during the event, I believe I was losing oxygen pretty quickly, and it's kind of a profound thing to talk about, but there's 3 occasions that I actually remember laying on the ground. Once was in the bathroom, once was in my living room, and once was in my bedroom. And every time I laid down, my dog Yogi was sitting behind me and licking me on the top of the head, and he was whining and he was concerned. He knew there was something wrong with me, and I was sweating, so he was staying with me. And I remember feeling the sensation of him licking the top of my head, and then I also remember that sensation, even though he was still doing it, was starting to fade. In other words, I wasn't feeling it anymore. I was starting to black out, and it wasn't the feeling of going to sleep. It wasn't the feeling of fainting. And at this point in time, I could say with pretty much all certainty that I think I was dying. I really believe that I was fading away because I could feel it. I felt my thoughts changing. I felt a sensation of sort of everything going black. My thoughts weren't clear anymore, and I felt like I was kind of going somewhere else. And I believe that, there was a few times where I was ready to kind of let go because I was in so much pain that I can't really describe, and it felt kind of comfortable to let myself fade away. It felt like I felt at ease, like, okay, I can get rid of this if I just let myself go. But I wouldn't allow it. And I told.
How would you come out of it?
I started to think about the people that I love and the people that love me. I started thinking about, my mom. I started thinking about my girlfriend. I started thinking about my friends like you, my friends Mitchell, Sean, Harold, people that I grew up with. I thought about my dogs. I thought about, I have more I need to do. So it's almost like I made this decision, and it happened 3 different times where I had to make this decision to fight back. And that's what I felt like I was doing. And I knew that if I was going to fight back, I was going to have to go back to feeling all that pain again. I remember tears coming out of my eyes. I remember just kinds of all weird thoughts. I remember seeing things. It was kind of really just a very surreal, strange experience. And each time I came out of it. And I also believe that part of my ability to fight through it actually has to do with even the way we train, because I was sort of trying to treat, as I was battling, I was trying to treat what was happening to me almost like I treat a set that's very painful. Say a set of leg press where you're going for an enormous amount of reps with really slow tempos and the pain is just building.
You get in that zone.
You get in a zone, and it's almost like you start to fight it with the same type of inner strength that I do in the gym. And it was almost like I felt, but I was sort of like fighting for my life rather than fighting for a set. So, when I started to remember all of these things, I was hysterical, crying uncontrollably so many different times because it's a very difficult thing to remember that you were maybe possibly going into that phase where you were making a decision whether are you going to let yourself go or not. And the doctors did say, to sort of confirm this, that I should have passed away at some point during this, during the heart attack, because it was so severe and my blockage was so severe that they couldn't believe that I actually managed to make it to the next morning, and then literally through the next day, and during the next day is when my girlfriend actually had texted me in the morning, and she asked me how I was feeling, and I was kind of downplaying, the way I didn't want her to get worried. I didn't want myself to get worried, and I downplayed it a little bit. But she was looking at my symptoms online, and she was seeing a lot of them were like right in line with having a heart attack. And then she said she wanted to call you, and you were about an hour away at the time where you live.
Yeah, you just called me to let me know that you weren't going to go train that morning because you had food poisoning. So I said, okay, well, I'll just train here, and that was the end of it.
Right.
That's all you said to me.
Right. And then when she wanted to call you, I was like, no, don't bother him. He's got a rough day ahead of him. He's got a lot to do. He's got busy. He's busy. She didn't listen to me, thank God. She didn't listen to me. She went behind my back. She contacted you, and then you contacted me and said, hey, what's going on? And at this point in time, probably this was about 16 hours into it. And you eventually came over and talked to me. And even then I was kind of resistant of going to the ER because...
Why? This whole thing, because it's important. The reason why we're doing this is because we, of course, want to tell people what happened to you, but we want to prevent from something like that to happen to someone else, possibly in the future. So from the moment you start not feeling right until we actually went to the ER, you said it was about 20 hours, right?
Yeah, it was about 20 hours before we went to the ER. I finally relented and said, okay, let's go. And, I still wasn't expecting to go to the ER and was told I was having a heart attack.
Me neither.
And you too, you were calling me like, let's just go. You'll find out it's nothing. They'll give you a pill. You'll leave, So that's kind of what I was like, okay, that's what we'll do. We'll go. And, basically when I got there, they took me pretty much right away. As soon as you described the symptoms that I was having, they put me in front of everybody and took me right to the back. And they laid me down on the table. They did an EKG on me. And I could see, I was watching the nurse do the EKG, and I saw her watching the, I guess, however reading it, however they read it, my heart rhythm, and I saw her shaking her head in a negative fashion and look at the doctor. And the doctor looked at it, and he turned around to me, and he just literally said to me, Eric, you're in the middle of a massive coronary right now. And it was literal shock. I mean, complete shock. I remember just getting chills. I remember my throat getting even tighter, but they started giving me immediately all kinds of medications, a ton of morphine, everything they had to try to get me. They were basically saving me right there, because I was in really, really bad shape. My blockages were so severe, and obviously I was dealing with it for so long. And I started crying. I started bawling tears. And you came into the room and you saw me, and I just said to you, Dave, I had a heart attack, and I lost it. I lost it because I just never in my life ever pictured myself in that position. I never felt so helpless. I never felt so out of control of myself, because I've always been, so in control of my health and fitness and everything. So I couldn't believe it was about to happen. And, everything just happened so quick. They literally got me from one gurney onto another gurney. They load me into an ambulance. Next thing I know, I'm in an ambulance, and I'm on my way to Beverly Hills, where the Cedars-Sinai Hospital is. And there was no break. I was right from the ambulance into surgery. And it was just immediate. They basically said, we need to do this now. There's just no talking. There's no deciding this. We need to do this now.
How about with a blockage?
100% blockage in one artery and 90% in another artery. And, again...
There was a third one that was a little bit more minimal, 75%. It was smaller, they said.
Smaller, and they said hopefully that's something that could be